I think this package was supposed to help traffic, but it feels exponentially worse. So.
Another year of talking about the short track package in NASCAR. Are you having fun yet? Are you having fun yet? I'm trying to have fun. But yes, it's only practice. Yes, it's only practice. But I'm going to overreact to practice. I like to usually reserve my thoughts on this kind of thing for Sunday after the race and stuff, but it's year 3 of the next gen car. I'm going to give you some of my opinions. I want to hear your opinions as well in the comments if you think I am overreacting and crazy and we need to see how this thing plays out on Sunday, or if you think, oh yeah, why are we doing this? But yes, NASCAR has once again changed the short track and road course package for the 2024 season, but they have been small tweaks to certain things, no massive overhaul of anything. And we have heard from the drivers after their 50-minute practice session that they had today, the first short track and the first road course of the season, which is Circuit of the Americas in about 2 weeks. We get extra practice so the teams can figure out how this package works at these tracks and, so they can get their data, study, figure things out. Well, that practice, once again, has happened, and the drivers are giving their opinions to the media. So we're going to read some of those quotes, react to some of those quotes, and I'm going to give you, as I have said multiple times, my own personal opinion. Let's get to these juicy quotes. Starting off with Tyler Reddick, driver of the number 45. This is the one I want to focus on the most. Tyler Reddick did his post-practice interview with FS1. It's about a 1.5-minute long interview. I'll put the link somewhere in the description. You can watch the whole thing. But the part that was clipped, or the part that I want to focus on, is where he says that the car felt exponentially worse. He didn't say, it felt a little bit worse in traffic, or, it felt about the same, and I wasn't happy with it. Exponentially worse. I don't even know. This package, this new road course short track package, was supposed to help these cars in traffic, help with more passing, so we could see more passes. We could see more side-by-side racing. The next-gen car started in 2022, and ironically enough, it flipped the script of the last few years of the Gen 6 car. The last few years of the Gen 6 cars, the intermediate tracks just were not great for racing, whereas the short tracks were fantastic. The racing was amazing. Anytime it was a short track on the schedule, NASCAR fans were like, let's eat, baby. Well, now, as I said, the flip has scripted, or the script has flipped, whatever that saying is. And the intermediate tracks like Las Vegas last week was fantastic. That race was great. The short tracks have struggled. We saw one of the worst Martinsville races back in the spring of 2022. And NASCAR has only made small changes. Now, that first year, 2022, that's a grace period. It's the first year of the package. You don't want to make any major changes mid-season when the teams are just getting to know the car. 2023, they made a slight change to some small things. And it's like, okay, let's see if these things work. They did not. And now we are in year 3 of the next-gen car. And here are some of the changes that NASCAR made to the package. They once again just made small, minor tweaks to the car. And they changed up the splitter stuffers. No engine panel strakes, a 3-inch spoiler. It was previously 2 inches. They simplified the diffuser, and they simplified the diffuser strakes. Now, some of that stuff, people can tell you in more detail what that means. I know the spoiler. That's the back of the car. They raised it up an inch. But some of this other stuff has to do with aerodynamics, dirty air, that kind of thing, getting loose, getting tight, whatever it may be. And the small differences from 2022 to 2023 made a change of like that much, maybe. But ultimately, it was not enough to where we saw road course and short track racing. We're like, oh yeah, that's a significant difference. And of course, the big talk is horsepower. What happens if we put more power in the car? I can't remember which driver, but one of the drivers said last year at some point that, in order to make a major difference in terms of the racing, put 1,000 horsepower in the car. I think that's a little bit extreme. We're sitting at 670 right now. But 1,000, I think that's a little much. But, we've heard drivers say that they want to add horsepower to the car. We've heard teams say, yeah, we think we could do it. We've even heard the manufacturers. We've heard, I think it was David Wilson at Toyota say, you know what? If it makes the racing better, yeah, I think we got a little room to add some horsepower. We can't go crazy. That 1,000 number is a little bit too big. But, if we wanted to go up a little bit, like let's say 750, I'm just making up that number. We want to go to 750, 800, that's not too big of an ask. But no, NASCAR said something about the cost being too crazy. I don't remember the exact quote, but here we are. Practice 1, 2024, short track number 1. And I'm going to overreact to it because usually I don't like to overreact this early in the season, but I'm doing it. We had nothing else to talk about today. But yes, exponentially worse in traffic. That is the last thing we wanted to hear. I remember reading someone who was watching practice said they were watching Kyle Larson right behind Austin Dillon. And, you look at a Hendrick car versus an RCR car. Hendrick's got the advantage there. Austin Dillon versus Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson has the advantage there. And he said it took him multiple laps for Kyle Larson to get by. Now, look, usually if it's great hard racing, if Dillon has a little bit better tires or something, or he truly has a better car that day, and they're evenly matched, then okay, that's cool. That's fun to watch. Let's be honest here. Austin Dillon should not be holding off Kyle Larson for multiple laps. But anyways, I don't know what the full situation was, but anyways, next quote number 2 from Martin Truex Jr., a Cup Series champion, almost universally respected, I feel like. After the first Cup Series practice with the revised short track package, Martin Truex Jr. says the car felt the exact same as last fall and was still terrible in traffic. Sunday is going to be a very boring race. Now, look, don't get me wrong. Phoenix is not the greatest track for racing sometimes. But, man, can we just get a decent race? Can we just do something to the cars to make it better? I don't know. I'm just going to keep repeating myself here. Daniel Suarez after practice, so we leave the Toyota camp. We are now in the Chevy camp. The car is very bad in traffic, probably even worse than before. On a positive note, though, he said that the tire seems to fall off a little bit quicker than before. That is something else they did. They did this whole test in December. They tested these new parts on the cars. They tested the car without the diffusers with different size spoilers. And ultimately, they settled on the current package. But they also tested tires. And it does seem, due to the practice times, that there is a little bit more tire fall off, which does help the racing. So Goodyear, it seems, has done their part. There's tire fall off after 10, 20, 30 laps, which is good. But when it comes down to people having even tires, having the same things, the racing is not going to be great at the short track packages when we keep making these marginal changes every single year. We got to make a swing for the fences. It's year 3. If the short track racing is still bad this year, they've got to make a drastic change next year. Or they've got to start focusing on the Generation 8 car, whatever you want to call it. It's just, I'm not optimistic right now. I like to be optimistic about this stuff, but right now I'm not optimistic. And ultimately, that's where we're sitting. Next up is Denny Hamlin, and Denny Hamlin was a little bit more positive. Not much more positive, but a little bit more positive. He said after practice that the package may be a little bit better in traffic, but otherwise he couldn't tell any difference with the car compared to last year. That said, he said his team made some huge setup changes from the previous season. William Byron said after the practice he felt no difference with the package and says when he would get within 2 or 3 car lengths of someone, he'd get super tight and couldn't get any closer unless he had a 2 to 3 lap tire advantage. Said he couldn't pass. So I think, once again, the tire thing, that's good to hear. Even 2 to 3 laps, that could be a pit cycle. Someone, waits a couple extra laps to pit, but eventually when those tires even out, we're just going to get the same situation as before, where people are just going to get stuck behind each other. And even with this car, even if you had to bump someone out of the way, this car, the brakes are so big and stuff, and you're shifting during the lap. That's kind of hard to bump and run someone sometimes. You got to be a little bit more aggressive with it. So, yeah, that's about it. Chase Elliott basically said the same thing. He said he felt so little difference with the package. He forgot NASCAR made any changes until they were talking about it after the session. And I don't know, man. But then there's this quote from Chase Elliott. It says, "Man, I'll shoot you super straight. They change the tire all the time. Not only does it not make the racing look any different, but it's really hard to tell from inside the car, regardless of whatever compound they put on. And I'm not saying it doesn't change things, because it does, but they are such minute things. It's not going to look any different. You're never going to hear about it. I don't mean that negatively, but the cars are what they are. We're racing on asphalt, and there are 4 tires. It can only be so different. Typically, the same guys run good every week, whether there's a tire compound change or not." And that's it for quotes, I guess. But ultimately, it seems that we are going to go another year. I really hope that in November I come back and watch this video and I laugh at myself. And, we're looking at the short track races, and they were some of the best races of the year. But as of today, March 8th, 9th, whatever today is, it's the 8th, March 8th, that I come back in November, watch this video, and I laugh at myself and say the short track races were great. They were fantastic races of the year. But as of today, I don't think that's going to happen. Ultimately, I just don't think the changes they made were enough. And when we get to the end of the season, we're going to have the same conversation on hand when it comes to the short tracks. We're going to have the same discussions. We're going to have the same arguments. People are still going to be mad. I just want something to change more drastically. I'm not saying we have to go to 1,000 horsepower or anything, but just add a little bit more power to the car. Do something drastic here. Once again, you don't have to go over the top, but make a change that is more than just moving the spoiler up a little bit or moving the spoiler down a little bit. And just do something that will make a big difference. Please, NASCAR. So hopefully Sunday's race is good. Hopefully this video was for nothing. But once again, I'm pessimistic. I just wanted to give you my thoughts on that. Wanted to read you some of the quotes from the drivers. So once again, let me know your thoughts, and I will see you guys in the next video tomorrow. We got an F1 race in the morning. We got NASCAR qualifying, which is going to be all important if you can't pass on track. And then we got the Xfinity race in the afternoon. Sunday, we got the Cup race. So once again, hopefully I'm wrong, but you never know.